Okay, we are live. Okay, I think we're ready to go. Okay, good to see everybody. Alrighty, so we will chant first. Alrighty. Okay. Oh, let's see, we'll do this today. I will chant for my deities first. Hopefully nothing's blocking you all. How about that? Move this out of the way. I think we got a clear shot. Okay, so we're chanting for the deities. Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Gopinana Pallava Jaya Giri Varodhare Jaya Giri Varodhare Vichana Panava Jaya Giri Varodhare Jaya Giri Varodhare Yasoda Nandana Jaya Vajrajana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Jaya Vajrajana Ranjana Yamunatira Panachari Raho Kunjaviyadi Kunjaviyadi Yamunatira Panachari Raho Kunjaviyadi Jaya Kunjaviyadi Rama Madhava Jaya Kunjaviyadi Jaya Rama Madhava Jaya Kunjaviyadi Vichana Pallava Jaya Giri Varodhare Giri Githari Vichana Pallava Jaya Giri Varodhare Giri Varodhare Yasoda Nandana Vajrajana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Jaya Vajrajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Kunjaviyari Kunjaviyari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Kunjaviyari Jaya Kunjaviyari Jaya Rama Madhava Jaya Kunjaviyadi Rama Madhava Jaya Kunjaviyadi Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravacharya also Tada Satashi Shimad His Divine Grace Abhaya Charanand Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. ISKCON founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Param Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shiva Siddhi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopi Gopinath Sayama Kunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan ki jai. Vrindavanam ki jai. Maternam ki jai. Jagannath Swami ki jai. Yamunamai ki jai. Shrimati Lassi Devi ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Budle. Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharane Nivashesha Shunya Vadi Paschacha Deja Tarane. So Om Gana Timidanda Shah Gananjana Shalakya Chakshur and Meditam Yena Tasmai Shi Gurave Namaha. All right. So we're going to start reading the Caitanya Charitamrta, Adi Lila, chapter 8, text, beginning with text 18. So, Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so we're going to go to the Caitanya Charitamrta. And here we go. I'm going to share the screen. All right, let me just prepare this a little bit. Oops. One mistake. Participants. Just give me 1 second. All right. Okay, that's good. And there we go. All right, we are ready to go. Beginning with text 18 in the 8th chapter of the Adi Lila. Krishna yadi chute bhakti mukti mukti dio kabu prema bhakti na dena rakena lukaya. If a devotee wants liberation or material sense gratification from the Lord, Krishna immediately delivers it, but pure devotional service he keeps hidden. Actually, that's really a warning for all of you. Oh my God. Don't ask for material sense gratification. And I'll give you a story, two stories about people who ask for material sense gratification from the Lord. Once upon a time, there was a lady, and Prabhupada tells a story, and she was a great devotee of Krishna. And every day she would go to the forest to get firewood for cooking or for selling. Actually, she was selling. That's how she made her living. And the way that they carry firewood and other things in India, at least the ladies, is they carry it on their heads. And you've ever seen this. Sometimes these ladies are carrying these gigantic vessels on their head. They're so big. You may say, oh, that's cruelty. These poor ladies, they have to carry all those stuff on their head. Well, guess what Prabhupada said? And it's a fact. In this way, they have good posture. Because the rest of us are sitting down at a computer and ruining our posture. Anyway, so this lady was carrying firewood home every day. And so one day she went to the forest and she slipped a little bit, and all the firewood, and it was a big pile, it wasn't just a little pile, a big pile of firewood fell on the ground. And she became very morose because, to pick it all up and stack it and all that other stuff, because if you're carrying it, it's really hard to get it together. She cried out, oh, Govinda, Govinda. She cried out again and again, and Krishna came and said, my dear devotee, you're in distress. What can I do for you? And she said, please pick up this wood and put it in a nice pile on my head again. Now, that's pretty stupid. Another story was also something that Prabhupada told. There was a guy who was pulling the boat, because in the old days, when they wanted to go upriver, rather than row the boat upriver, they would actually have ropes, and they would pull the boat from the shore. The person would stand on the shore and pull the boat up the river. This guy was really suffering. His feet were really hurting. Had a lot of calluses and bunions. Anyway, if you don't know what bunions are, that's too bad. He had problems with his feet, cracked heels and stuff like that. So anyway, he was feeling really, really morose. And he started crying. He was a great devotee too. And he started to really cry to Krishna. My dear Krishna, help, help. And Krishna came. He said, what can I do, my dear devotee? And he said, please make the path soft when I'm pulling the boat up the hill or up the river. Make it like pillows that I'm walking on. And so Krishna said, all right, if that's what you want, I'll give it to you. So in other words, he could have asked Krishna for anything. It's just like if you go to, let's say, a rich man like Elon Musk, and he says, how much donation do you want for the Krishna consciousness movement? And you say, could you please give $100? You are a stupido. That means you're stupid, because he give you billions of dollars. Anyway, so Krishna can give you a Krishna consciousness, so why are you going to ask him for something that's just going to entangle you and give you the illusion that you're happy in this world, like making the ground soft or putting the firewood on your head? This is the ultimate in estupideza. That's stupidity. So, text 19. So don't ask Krishna for anything mundane, because you'll get it. Like the story I usually tell. Oh, there's another story. We like stories. So in Vrindavan, every tree is a desire tree. So when you ask something of the tree, you'll get it. So once upon a time, I went to Vrindavan with one of my friends, and this friend's wife left him. Anyway, for some reason, she left him, and he was thinking of getting married again. And he was quite old, not that he was a spring, I don't want a spring rooster. That's a male chicken. So anyway, so it's not that he was a rooster, a spring rooster. I'm a young guy. It's over 50. And I was thinking, this is not the right time. So I go to Krishna through the desire tree, and I embrace the desire tree, and I say, my dear desire tree, please arrange that he doesn't get married anymore. And so the desire tree said, yes, Maharaj. And then he heard what I had done. In fact, I admitted to him, I had just prayed for you. And he said, don't do that, Maharaj. And he ran up to that same desire tree, embraced it with all of his strength, practically crushed the tree. I mean, had he been strong, he would have crushed the tree. Can you imagine crushing a tree? He was just so enthusiastic. He said, please, please, negate that blessing, negate that prayer. Please, release me. Please arrange that I can get married. And so Krishna heard his prayers because his prayers were stronger than my prayers. And within 3 weeks or something like that, he was married. Had an instant family, too. There were 3 children. So, anyway, you got to be careful what you pray for. You know, so when I go to Vrindavan, what do I pray for? I pray for service. I pray to please my spiritual master. So I go up to the trees. Particularly, there's one tree I really like, and that tree is right in Govindakund. It's where Madhavendra Puri took his bath, his bathing place, and I embrace the tree, or I touch the tree, and I say, my dear tree, please let me be pleasing to my spiritual master. Anyway, and so that, I know I can't go wrong with that prayer. You know, if let's say if I say, please Krishna, make me a gopi, then I'll find out, then Krishna will make me some mundane coward girl. Or make me a coward boy. Then Krishna will make me a cowboy in Texas or something like that. So you've got to be really careful what you ask Krishna for. Because there's all sorts of fine print in the contract. So you say, Krishna, let me go back to Godhead. Krishna may immerse you in the Brahmajyoti. Anyway. Or he may send you back to the religion you were in before you joined the Krishna conscious movement. So be careful. So the only safe prayer for me is, please let me engage in my spiritual master's service and let me please my spiritual master life after life. Mama Janmani, Janmanishvarai Bhavatad Bhakti Hai Tuki Hoye. So next verse. Rajan Patir Guru Alam Bhavatam Yadunam Daivam Priya Kulapati Svacha Kinkaro Vaha Asvevam Anga Bhagavan Bhajatam Kundo Muktim Dadati Kari Chit Smana Bhakti Yogam. The great sage Shukadev said, my dear Maharaj Parikshit, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna is always ready to help you. He is your master, guru, God, and dear friend, very dear friend, and also the head of your family. Yet sometimes he agrees to act as your family's servant or order carrier. You are greatly fortunate because this relationship is possible only by bhakti yoga. The Lord can give liberation, mukti, very easily, but he does not very easily give one bhakti yoga because by that process he is bound to the devotee. In other words, the devotee controls Krishna by his or her devotion. So that's why Krishna doesn't give himself easily, because he's not going to be controlled by some wascal. If you don't understand the word wascal, that's French for rascal. Hold on a second, I'm just moving something. Okay, that's good. This passage is a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, 6th chapter, text 18. While Shukadev Goswami was describing the character of Rishabhadev, he distinguished between bhakti yoga and liberation by reciting this verse. In relationship with the Yadus and Pandavas, the Lord acted sometimes as their master, sometimes as their advisor, sometimes as their friend, sometimes as the head of their family, and sometimes even as their servant. Krishna once had to carry out an order of Yudhishthira's by carrying a letter Yudhishthira had written to Duryodhana regarding peace negotiations. Similarly, he also became the charioteer or the chariot driver of Arjuna. This illustrates that in Bhakti Yoga, there is a relationship established between the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the devotee. Such a relationship is established in the transcendental mellows known as Dasha, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. That means servant, friendship, parental relationship, and conjugal relationship. If a devotee wants simple liberation, he gets it very easily from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as confirmed by Bilvamangal Thakur, Mukti Swayam Mukuli Tanjali Sevate Sman. For a devotee, mukti is not very important, because mukti is always standing on his doorstep waiting to serve him by some way. A devotee, therefore, must be attracted by the behavior of the inhabitants of Vrindavan who live in a relationship with Krishna. The land, water, cows, trees, and flowers serve Krishna in Shantaras. His servants serve him in Dasharas, and his coward friends serve him in Sakyaras. Similarly, the elder gopis and gopas serve Krishna as father and mother, uncle and other relatives, and the young gopis, the coward girls, serve Krishna in conjugal love. While executing devotional service, one must be naturally inclined to serve Krishna in one of these transcendental relationships. That is the actual success of life. For a devotee to get liberation is not very difficult. Even one who is unable to establish a relationship with Krishna can achieve liberation by merging into the Brahmana effulgence, that is hell. This is called Sayuja Mukti. Vaishnavas never accept Sayuja Mukti, that means merging in the Brahmana effulgence, although sometimes they accept the other forms of liberation, namely Sarupya, Salokya, Samhipya, and Sarshti. A pure devotee, however, does not accept any kind of mukti. Lord, Salokya means living on the planet of the Lord, Samhipya means being associated with the Lord, and Sharshti, frozen. Hold on a second. It's back. Okay. Frozen. It's actually quite warm today. Let me repeat. So it's quite warm. I don't know why things would freeze. Anyway, I know you're talking about the internet. So let me repeat. A pure devotee does not accept any kind of mukti. He wants only to serve Krishna in a transcendental relationship. This is the perfectional stage of spiritual life. Mayavadi philosophers desire to merge into the existence of the Brahman effulgence, although this aspect of liberation is always neglected by devotees. So, just to make this clear, that if a devotee is told by Krishna to accept these other types of liberation, then the devotee will accept them to serve Krishna, but not Sayuja, not liberation, of merging into the existence of the Lord of the Brahmajyoti of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srila Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur describing, let me put on my alternative internet in case this goes out completely, because I'm just getting a warning that it may go out. Srila Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur describing this kind of mukti, which is called kaivalya, or becoming one with the Supreme, has said kaivalyam, not a kayate. Becoming one with the Supreme is as good as going to hell. Actually, hell is preferable because at least in hell you got some activities. Therefore, the ideal of Mayavad philosophy, becoming one with the Supreme, is hellish for a devotee. He never accepts it. Mayavad philosophers do not know that even if they merge into the effulgence of the Supreme, this will not give them ultimate rest. An individual soul cannot live in the Brahman effulgence in a state of inactivity. After some time, he must desire to be active. However, since he is not aware of his relationship with the Supreme Personality of God and therefore has no spiritual activity, he must come down. Here's Prabhupada's statement. Must come down for further activities in this material world. That's confirmed in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 2nd chapter, text 32. And this is a verse we have recited many, many times. Because Mayavadi philosophers have no information regarding the transcendental service of the Lord, even after attaining liberation from material activities and merging into the Brahman effulgence. They must come down again to this material world to open hospitals or schools or perform similar philanthropic activities. So, in other words, they're merging, just to reiterate what I've said 1,000 times before for those of you who are not listening, that their merging is not actually merging. It's like the green bird going into the green tree, green board, to speak with my Hindi accent, the green board going into the green tree. It appears to disappear because it's the same color. It is camouflaged, but it doesn't lose its identity. And that's hellish because in the Brahmajyoti you can't do anything. It's the worst possible situation. Better to be in jail. Hena prema Sri Caitanya Lila yata tata. Jagai madai paryanta anyera ka kata. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was freely, given this love of God, Krishna everywhere and anywhere, even to the most fallen, such as Jagai and Madai. What then to speak of those who are already pious and elevated? The distinction between Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's gift to human society and the gifts of others is that whereas so-called philanthropic and humanitarian workers have given some relief to human society as far as the body is concerned, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu offers the best facilities for going back home, back to Godhead with love of Godhead. If one seriously makes a comparative study of the two gifts, certainly if he is at all sober, he will give the greatest credit to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It was with this purpose that Kaviraj Goswami said, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Daya Karaha Vichara, Vichara Karilai Chite Bhave Chamatkara. If you are indeed interested in logic and argument, kindly apply it to the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. If you do so, you will find it to be strikingly wonderful. That's from the Chaitanya Charitamrta, Adi Lila, 8th chapter, text 15. Srila Narottam Das Thakur says, Dina Hina Yata Chilo Hari Name Harilo Tara Sakshi Jagai Madai. The two brothers, Jagai and Madai, epitomize the sinful population of this age of Kali. They were the most disturbing elements in society because they were meat eaters. Yuck. Drunkards. Yuck. Woman hunters. Yuck. Rogues. Yuck. And thieves. Yet Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu delivered them, to say nothing of others who were sober, pious, devoted, and conscientious. The Bhagavad Gita confirms that to say nothing of the Brahmanically qualified devotees and Rajarshis, Kimpura, Brahmana, Punya, Bhakta, Rajarshayastata, anyone who, by the association of a pure devotee, comes to Krishna consciousness, becomes eligible to go back home, back to Godhead. In the Bhagavad Gita, in the 9th chapter, text 32, the Lord thus declares, Mami parte vyapashata yepi shupapayoni ha striyo vaishastata shudraste piyanti paramgatim. O son of Pita, those who take shelter of me, though they be of lower birth, women, Vaishyas, merchants, Sudras, workers, can attain the supreme destination, and all of us were very low birth. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu delivered the two fallen brothers, Jagai and Madai, but the entire world is presently full of Jagais and Madais, or in other words, woman hunters, meat eaters, gamblers, thieves, and other rogues, who create all kinds of disturbances in society. The activities of such persons have now become common practice. It is no longer considered abominable to be a drunkard, woman hunter, meat eater, thief, or rogue, for these elements have been assimilated by human society. So it's not abominable. Actually, you probably get elected to be president of the United States. Actually, it's true. It is absolutely true. That does not mean, however, that the abominable qualities of such persons will help free human society from the clutches of Maya. Rather, they will entangle humanity more and more in the reactions of the stringent laws of material nature. One's activities are all performed under the influence of the modes of material nature, Prakriti Kriyamanani, Gunai Karmani Savashaha. Gita, 3rd chapter, text 27, because people are now associating with the modes of ignorance, Tamagun, and to some extent passion, Rajogun, with no trace of goodness, Sattvagun. They are becoming increasingly greedy and lusty, for that is the effect of associating with these modes. Tada rajastamo bhava kama lubhayas dayas chiye. By associating with the two lower qualities of material nature, one becomes lusty and greedy. That's from the Bhagavatam, 1st canto, 2nd chapter, text 19. Actually, in modern human society, everyone is greedy and lusty. Therefore, the only means for deliverance is Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu Sankirtan movement, which can promote all the Jagas and Madhas to the topmost position of Sattva Guna Brahminical culture. Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 1st canto, 2nd chapter, text 18 to 19 states, very important verse, Nashta Prayesha Apadreshu Nitya Bhagavata Sevya Bhakta Uttama Shloke Bhakti Ravati Naishtaki Tada Rajastamo Bhava Kama Lovadayas Chiye Cheta Hitarana Vidam Stitam Sati Prasidati. Considering, I guess I should translate that. If by regular attendance in Bhagavatam class or always hearing Bhagavatam or serving a pure devotee, all that is inauspicious in the heart becomes destroyed almost to nil. In this way, the modes of nature, like passion and ignorance, which give rise to kama, lust, greed, can be eradicated. And then one becomes situated in transcendental goodness. Considering the chaotic condition of human society, if one actually wants peace and tranquility, one must take to the Krishna conscious movement and engage always in Bhagavata Dharma. Engagement in Bhagavata Dharma dissipates all ignorance and passion, and when ignorance and passion are dissipated, one is freed from greed and lust. When freed from greed and lust, one becomes Brahmanically qualified, and when a Brahmanically qualified person makes further advancement, he becomes situated on the Vaishnava platform. It is only on this Vaishnava platform that it is possible to awaken one's dormant love of Godhead, and as soon as one does so, his life is successful. At present, human society is specifically cultivating the mode of ignorance. Tell me all about it. All these games like the Super Bowl, although there may be some symptoms of passion, there has to be some symptoms of passion, or else someone would be sleeping all the time. Full of common lobha, lust, and greed, the entire population of the world consists mostly of Shudras and a few Vaishyas, and gradually it is coming about that there are Shudras only. Communism is a movement of Shudras, and capitalism is meant for Vaishyas. In the fighting between these two factions, the Shudras and Vaishyas, gradually due to the abominable condition of society, the communists will emerge triumphant, and as soon as this takes place, whatever is left of society will be ruined. The only possible remedy that can counteract the tendency towards communism is the Krishna consciousness movement, which can give even communists the real idea of a communist society. According to the doctrine of communism, the state should be the proprietor of everything, but the Krishna consciousness movement, expanding the same idea, accepts God as the proprietor of everything. People cannot understand this because they have no sense of God, but the Krishna consciousness movement can help them to understand God and to understand that everything belongs to God. Since everything is the property of God and all living entities, not only human beings, but even animals, birds, plants, and so on, are children of God, everyone has the right to live at the cost of God with God consciousness. This is the sum and substance of the Krishna consciousness movement. So several points here. For those of you who don't know who Jagai and Madai were, they were originally high-class Brahmins. Their names were Jagadananda and Madhavananda. And so they, by bad association, they became degraded and started drinking and woman hunting and attacking people. I think they even killed people. They were so sinful that Yamaraja's secretary, Chitragupta, could not even keep up with the extent of their bad karma. What happened is that Lord Nityananda, he decided to show that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was the most merciful appearance of the Supreme Personality of God. And so Lord Nityananda said that he, as Lord Chaitanya's representative, would give Jagai and Madai pure devotional service. First time he approached them, along with Haridas Thakur, they chased after him and Haridas Thakur. And the second time, one of them, that was Madai, hit him on the head with a pot, an earthen pot. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so upset with that he was getting ready to kill them both. But Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda begged for their mercy. And they were forgiven, and they apologized, of course. They became such great devotees, they became intimate associates of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. Another point is that while they were having, before they rectified themselves, while they were in their drunken stupor, they were imitating the sound of the kirtan because they were doing their drunken stuff outside of Srivas Thakur's house. And Srivas Thakur's house was the place where Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would have his nocturnal kirtans. So they got blessed in that way too. So even these Jagais and Madhais can be blessed by the holy name. You're not going to change them by philosophy. Like if you go to the, Trumps of this world, and you start preaching to them, they will never understand. Why will they not understand? Because they're pashugnats. Oh my God, what's a pashugnat? It means killers of animals. Nivrittatarshar upagimana pavoshada shotra manobiramat gautamash gunanavadat puman vitajeta banal pashugnat. Because they're killers of animals, they're doing all these sinful activities. They won't understand philosophy. Forget it. Forget it. You just got to give them some prasadam and the holy names, and that will help them. But if you start telling them you're not the body, how could they understand what you're talking about? They actually believe, according to their so-called religious beliefs, that at the time of judgment, their body is going to come out of the tomb again and become reconstituted. Ooh, this is like the subject matter of a horror movie. You know, some real big, heavy science fiction movie that, you know, the tombs open up, the earth splits open, the coffin, the top of the coffin comes out, and the bones come out, but then the skin starts to join the bones again. Kind of stupid. And then in that skin and bones body, you come out, your grandfather comes out, your grandmother comes out, great-grandfather comes out, and your dog comes out, your cat comes out, and you all go back to Godhead together. Pretty stupid. So that is not our philosophy. So we don't speak philosophy to animals. To animals, we just give them some prasadam. Just like we have devotees here with pet cats. So I don't sit down with the cat. One of the cat's names is Tilak. So I don't sit down. Tilak, I have to have a talk with you today. I have to talk about your activities. I have to see if you're chanting your rounds every day. You have to see if you understand the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. No, I just give it some prasadam. So, Swatantra Ishvara Prema Nigura Bandara Vilaila Yare Tare Nakaila Vichara. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of God himself, is fully independent. Therefore, although it is the most confidentially stored benediction, he can distribute love of Godhead to anyone and everyone without consideration. And Prabhupada says, this is the benefit of Lord Chaitanya's movement. If one somehow or other comes into contact with the Hare Krishna movement without consideration of his being a Shudra, Vaishya, Jagai, Madai, or even lower, he becomes advanced in spiritual consciousness and immediately develops love of God. We now have actual experience that throughout the entire world, this movement is making many such persons lovers of God simply by the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Actually, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has appeared as the spiritual master in the entire world. He does not discriminate between offenders and the innocent. Krishna Prema Pradayate. He liberally gives love of God to anyone and everyone. This can actually be experienced as stated in the next verse. And of course, that was Prabhupada's experience. He came to the Western world where people were immersed in the modes of ignorance and passion. And as Prabhupada said, when he wrote his famous poem, when the boat arrived in Boston Harbor, he said, Bhakti Vedanta, I have no devotion and I have no knowledge. Prabhupada was praying to Krishna. But if you like, you could make the words of the Srimad Bhagavatam enter into their hearts. And I'm just paraphrasing. Make me dance, make me dance, make me dance. In other words, make me an instrument for your mercy. And if we become an instrument for Lord Chaitanya's mercy, we can accomplish a lot because we've been empowered. But we have to take that empowerment. Adyapiha deka Chaitanya nama ye loya Krishna preme pulakashru vivala sehaya. Whether he is offensive or inoffensive, anyone who even now chants Sri Krishna, Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda is immediately overwhelmed with ecstasy and tears fill his eyes. Haribo. Purport, the Prakrita Sahajas who chant Nitai Gaur Radhe Sham, that's a bogus mantra, have very little knowledge of the Bhagavad conclusion, and they hardly follow the Vaishnava rules and regulations, and yet because they chant Bhajan Nitai Gaur, their chanting immediately evokes tears and other signs of ecstasy. Although they do not know the principles of Vaishnava philosophy and are not very much advanced in education, by these symptoms they attract many men to become their followers. Their ecstatic tears will, of course, help them in the long run, for as soon as they come in contact with a pure devotee, their lives will become successful. Even in the beginning, however, because they are chanting the holy names of Nitai Gaura, their swift advancement on the path of love of Godhead is very prominently visible. It's like I have one disciple who engages people in chanting Gauranga. She hands out stickers, Gauranga stickers everywhere. And actually, previously, because she was working with the devotees in Scotland, the devotees in Scotland would actually have these giant banners that they would paste under bridges or on the side of bridges. And so people would be driving the car and see Gauranga, chant Gauranga. And they began to think that the name Gauranga was the name of a bridge building company. And devotees, they would, in the middle of the night, they would paste these signs everywhere. And sometimes they'd get caught, but they never had to go to jail. Lord Chaitanya saved them. Nityananda balite hoya Krishna premodaya olaya sakala anga ashru ganga voya. Simply by talking of Nityananda Prabhu, just talking of him, one awakens his love for Krishna. Wow. Thus all his bodily limbs are agitated by ecstasy, and tears flow from his eyes like the waters of the Ganges. Wow. Krishna nama kari aparadera vichara. Krishna balile aparadhira nohoya vikara. There are offenses to be considered while chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Therefore, simply by chanting Hare Krishna, one does not become ecstatic. And Prabhupada explains, it is very beneficial, well, one will become ecstatic if one chants the Panchatattva mantra first. It is very beneficial to chant the names Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda before chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, because by chanting these two holy names, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, one immediately becomes ecstatic. I feel it now. And then he chants the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and he becomes free of offenses. There are 10 offenses to avoid in chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. The first offense is to blaspheme great personalities who are engaged in distributing the holy name of the Lord, is said in the Shastra, in the Caitanya Caritamrta, Anta Lila 7:11. Krishna Shakti Vinanahi Tari Pravartana. One cannot distribute the holy names of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra unless he is empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, one should not criticize or blaspheme a devotee who is thus engaged. Sri Padma Purana states, Satam ninda namna paramam aparadam vitannute yatak yatim yatam kattam usahate tad vigarhang. To blaspheme the great saintly persons who are engaged in preaching the glories of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is the worst offense at the lotus feet of the holy name. One should not criticize a preacher of the glories of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. One does so, he is an offender. The Nama Prabhu, who is identical with Krishna, will never tolerate such blasphemous activities, even from one who passes as a great devotee. Of course, this first offense is also called the mad elephant offense, because when chanting Hare Krishna, you're trying to cultivate the creeper of devotion. And if an elephant gets into your garden, the creeper is finished and you become a creep. The second namaparada, that means offense, is described as follows. Shivasa Shivishno Yak Iha Guna Namadi Sakalam Diya Bidnam Pashat Sakalu Hari Namakita Karaha. In this material world, the holy name of Vishnu is all auspicious. Vishnu's name, form, qualities, and pastimes are all transcendental absolute knowledge. Therefore, if one tries to separate the absolute personality God from his holy name, or his transcendental form, qualities, and pastimes, thinking them to be material, that is offensive. Similarly, to think that the names of demigods, such as Lord Shiva, are as good as the name of Lord Vishnu, or in other words, to think that Lord Shiva and the other demigods are other forms of God and are therefore equal to Vishnu, is also blasphemous. This is the second offense at the lotus feet of the holy name of the Lord. The third offense of the lotus feet of the holy name, which is called Guru Avagya, is to consider the spiritual master to be material, and therefore to envy his exalted position, and also to disobey his orders. That's also described. The fourth offense, Shruti, Shastra, Nindanam, is to blaspheme Vedic literature such as the four Vedas and the Puranas. The fifth offense, Artha Vadaha, is to consider the glories of the holy name to be exaggerations. Similarly, the sixth offense, Harinamni Kalpanam, is to consider the holy name of the Lord to be imaginary. Seventh offense is described as follows. Namno bala yasya hi papa vurir na vidyate tasya yamar hi sudihi. To think that since the Hare Krishna mantra can counteract all sinful reactions, one may therefore go on with the sinful activities and at the same time chant the Hare Krishna mantra to neutralize them is the greatest offense at the lotus feet of Hri Nama. The eighth offense is stated thus. Dharma vrata dhyaga hutadi sarva shubhakriya sam yam api pramadaha. It is offensive to consider the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra to be a religious ritualistic ceremony. Performing religious ceremonies, following vows, and practicing renunciation and sacrifice are all materialistic, auspicious activities. Not that you give them up, but you don't compare them to chanting. The chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra must not be compared to such materialistic religiosity. This is an offense at the lotus feet of the holy name of the Lord. The ninth offense is described as follows. Ashradarane vimuke vyashrinvate Yaschopadesha Shiva Namaparadaha is an offense to preach the glories of the holy name among persons who have no intelligence or no faith in the subject matter. Such people should be given the chance to hear the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, but in the beginning, they should not be instructed about the glories of the spiritual significance of the holy name. By constant hearing of the holy name, their hearts will be purified, and then they will be able to understand the transcendental position of the holy name. The 10th offense is as follows. Shrutepi nama mahatmya priti rahito naraha aham mamadi paramo namni sopyaparada krit. If one has heard the glories of the transcendental holy name of the Lord, but nevertheless continues in a materialistic concept of life, thinking, I'm this body and everything belongs to this body is mine. Ahamameti, Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, 5th chapter, text 8. 8, and does not show respect and love for the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. That is an offense. Okay. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in his description of these 10 offenses, also adds something that may be considered the 11th offense, but is not actually an 11th offense because it's the overriding offense that one commits when one commits the other offenses. It's called inattentive chanting. So, in order to counteract these 10 offenses, one has to take a positive tact. For example, to counteract the offense of blaspheming devotees, instead, you positively glorify the devotees and serve the devotees. I'm not going to go through each and every one. To counteract the offense of disobeying the order of the spiritual master, obey, you rascal. To count. Sorry about that. To counteract the offense of preaching the glories of the Lord to those who are faithless, understand who you're preaching to and adjust your preaching according to time, place, and circumstance. So there's a positive side to each and every offense. To avoid the offense, you got to do something positive. Instead of being inattentive, you should be attentive. Obviously, attention, pay attention. So anyway, pay attention. How do you pay attention to the holy names? Well, before you chant, this is a hint. You have a sankalpa, an intention. Why am I chanting? I'm chanting today. And if your intention is I'm just chanting because I have to, not a good intention. Well, it's better than nothing. But your intention should be, why am I chanting? I want to connect with Krishna. I want to please my spiritual master. I want to be empowered to preach Krishna consciousness. I want to be detached from this material world. I want to realize my spiritual identity. Got so many positive things, isn't it? And so you chant with intensity, focusing on your goal. Oh, Krishna, I'm your eternal servant, but somehow or other I've fallen down into this horrible ocean of birth and death. And please fix me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patita Mam Vishame Bhavambudo Kripaya Tapapadabhangaja Sita Duli Sadrasam Machintaya. All right, so enough. We will end there on text 25. Let me just write this down. That's where we ended today. We ended on 24. Sorry about that. And then we will take questions from all of you. Here we go. The Prabhus and Prabhis. Give me 1 second. You can now officially unmute yourselves. Whoops. Okay. Oh my God, there's Pran Govinda again. All right, who wants to ask a question? Okay, Pran Govinda, ask a question.
Please accept my humble obeisances, Maharaj. All glories to Prabhupada.
All glories to Prabhupada.
Thank you for doing such a wonderful service of this Chaitanya Caritamrta. Maharaj,
okay.
In Madhya Lila chapter 23rd, I remember there are several verses. I'm paraphrasing the translation that Lord himself said that I'm very intelligent. Why should I give this full material prosperity? Instead, I shall induce him to take the nectar of the shelter of my lotus feet and make him forget the material enjoyment or merging.
Yes.
So should we endeavor or keep on just serving? Don't worry about merging or.
Don't worry about what?
Don't worry about material desire and all these things.
We should worry about them because if you ask Krishna for them enough, he may give them to you in such a way. Yes, Krishna will not give them to you in a way that will cause you to leave Krishna consciousness, but Krishna will give them to you in such a way that you will get sick of them.
Oh, interesting.
So, there's two ways you can learn. Two ways. Do you know the two ways? No?
No.
One is by hearing.
Oh, yes.
Material world is miserable. Okay, great. I accept taking sannyas. Haribo. Another way is by doing, getting kicked.
That's me.
Well, it's all of us to a certain extent.
Thank you, Maharaj.
We think when I get this or achieve this, I will be happy. And then we find out that those very things, the material things we get, that's interesting. I'm on my alternative hotspot now, which is good. But
Maharaj,
we think that the material things that we get are going to make us happy. And what they do, it's like a burden. It's like that lady with the firewood on her head. We're thinking, only if I had this. I mean, just like, I remember the story in the Mahabharata where Draupadi in her previous life, she really wanted a husband. She was not supposed to have a husband in that life. And what did she say? Do you know?
5 times she offered.
5 times she prayed, I want a husband, 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 I want a husband. And Lord Shiva said, okay, you get 5 for the price of 1. And he said, no, that's not what I meant. Well, you asked for it, lady. Anyway, so sometimes, we get what we pray for, and Krishna arranges it in such a way that it really makes us see it was a foolish prayer.
I
Makes
really
sense? So,
appreciate that.
yeah, so Krishna will not give his devotee something that will destroy his spiritual life. But he'll give if his devotee really wants something, he'll give him something so it will give the devotee an experience that he'll never forget. And all experiences are not necessarily pleasant.
Mhm.
We've had many experiences. Let me become, I mean, just like when I was a young devotee, I was thinking, let me become a GBC. Let me become GBC. That's the perfection of life. So I became GBC, and now I see it's not the perfection of life. But I'm serving Prabhupada. It's nice. But, or let me become a sannyasi so I can eat all the Mahaprasadam. No, I didn't think like that. Anyways, that would be ridiculous. Because now I can't even eat fried foods, sugar, or anything heavy.
Mhm.
I mean, that must mean I'm liberated. So anyway, so the point is, this is what Prabhupada said. The point is that sometimes Krishna gives us what we ask for, but he gives it to us if we're devotees in such a way that it really teaches us a good lesson. Right?
I like the purport you are giving because it sounds like very sweet. Krishna is merciful. He's going to purify, but it doesn't say that he's going to actually give a little kick the way you are
Yeah.
expressing.
Yeah. I mean, Krishna gives a kick sometimes. But that's love. Like it says, the spiritual master, Prabhupada said, his business is to chastise the disciple.
Hmm.
So that's love. I mean, if you see your child, like Prabhupada gave the example of the boy who was being taken care of by his aunt, and the aunt, you know the story, and the aunt never chastised him, and the boy grew up and he became a criminal.
Yeah.
And then what happened is that the boy became such a criminal, he became a murderer, and he was condemned to death. And they asked the boy, is there anything you'd like to do or say or think about before we kill you? And he said, yes, I'd like to talk to my aunt. And so the aunt came and he bit the ear off of the aunt, and the aunt said, aunt, not aunt. Not a little ant. In America, we do call it ant. We do call it an ant. Say, here's my aunt. But actually, it's aunt is the proper British pronunciation. But in America, we pronounce it like A-N-T, like it's one of the little bugs. Here's my bug. So anyway, but proper English is aunt, and American English is aunt. So anyway, so he bit the ear off the aunt, and the aunt said, why did you bite my ear off? And he said, because you never chastised me. So sometimes, argumentum ad vaculum. Sometimes, Krishna gives you a tough lesson. I mean, we've all had these tough lessons, haven't we? I mean, so many tough lessons that we get. And, it's not always pleasant, but it's for our own good. Like a good mother will sometimes punish a child for his own good. And that's necessary. So Krishna's very kind. He'll never give us anything that will drag us away from devotional service. So we have one question here. Someone could say that Krishna is forcing one then free will. No, he's not forcing one. You still can go on with your nonsense. I
Mm.
mean, if you decide not to be a devotee, that's another thing. I'm talking about devotees now. If you decide not to be a devotee, then you can go on with your nonsense into lower and lower species of life, basically, as Krishna says, never to approach them, which is a very long time. Uh, and then you'll experience some miseries too, but after a while, maybe you'll get it, or maybe you won't get it. But you have that free will, because there's no enjoyment outside of Krishna consciousness. There's zero enjoyment outside of Krishna consciousness. Zero, zero, zero. It's just an illusion. It's just you get the fulfillment of your lusty desires, but that fulfillment does not satisfy you, isn't it? You get something
Yes.
you want. I mean, how many times when I was young, we celebrated Christmas? How many times did I open up a present under the Christmas tree? Or, amazing, they actually put socks. What a moochy thing to do. You put socks, hanging up socks. So people will put candy in the socks. I mean, can't, like in a high class culture like in India, would you put food in someone's socks? It's ridiculous. Such a stupid thing to do. I mean, you hang socks by a chimney and you expect some guy to come slithering down your chimney. And why doesn't he just come in the front door? Why the hell is he going down the chimney? I mean, it's about probably the dirtiest part of the. I mean, he might as well come through the sewer system with the speak of the chimney. So anyway, I mean, where did they ever come up with that stupid idea? Anybody knows that a chimney is full of soot and dirt and everything like that. So anyway, so getting back to the point. So I remember opening up presents on Christmas. I mean, so happy, some new gadget or something like that, a new iPod or iPad or iPad, whatever. So I remember opening, because we didn't have those when I was young. I mean, the only gadgets we had were like a nutcracker for cracking nuts or something like that, or I can't remember what gadgets we had. I think just like a little toy rock or something. So anyway, we'd open up the Christmas presents and we feel great joy. Wow, it's finally there. I remember one time for Christmas, and this is, it's nice to have a rich family. I asked my father for a sports car, real sports car. I wasn't a little kid. I think it was 17, 18, something like that, real super duper sports car. So I wake up in the morning, look outside in the driveway, and there's this sports car there. And I became so happy. I ran out, started driving the sports car. And after a while, it became very dry, the whole sports car. And then I joined the Hare Krishna movement, and Krishna smashed it the first day after I joined the movement. Just one day in the Hare Krishna movement, and Krishna, Yashaham Anugriname Harishe Tadjanamshanai. I take away everything. It's my only happiness in this world. So, poor guy. I mean, it's just like, it's my only possession. I mean, no girlfriends, thank God, but only my sports car was the only possession I had. And Krishna took away, and Krishna even took away my bar mitzvah money. That's another story. So anyway, what was I going to say? Oh, so yeah, so when I got things, they actually just became a headache. And you see, the more possessions you have, the more
Mhm.
you're actually a headache. So anyway, that's Krishna's kindness. I'm so thankful that Krishna's brought me to this point. But don't bring me any more points. Oh, I'm just joking.
Maharaj, can I ask you another
No, no.
question?
Oh my God, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
What's what's the question? Your
Well, on the
divine grace.
first offense, I generally always focus on that. From Hari Bhakti Bilas, it says the 6 type of Vaishnava offense,
Yes,
and one was that mm, failed to welcome Vaishnava. Like,
yes.
but do I really have to do like every time somebody walks in? Because Alachua temple is open. We are maintaining social distance, but it's open. Do I really have to go to each person? I mean, I don't have to go to Mataji's side. I mean, I just curious asking you, what is that means?
You just opened yourself up for a funny joke right now. I mean, just like you're gonna welcome the men and not the Vaishnavis.
No, I don't mean that. I mean, like, what is the proper way to welcome? Like, do I really have to do it, or just in mind I
Just
should
go,
just have it?
just go like this. Just go like this.
Okay.
Hare Krishna. But if a Vaishnava comes to visit from far away, then there has to be something special. Welcome like that. But if someone is just living in the community, then you just say to him, "Oh, just you again?"
Maharaj, with the mask on, I cannot even see who is who.
Oh my God.
That's a benefit. That's a benefit of wearing a mask. We have I have one disciple who wears a Spider-Man mask, but I know who it is because he's the only one who would wear that mask in the morning. No, I mean you could just go like I mean what I do is when a devotee walks in the temple, one of my god brothers or something, you go like that. I keep chanting. Otherwise, I wouldn't get any rounds done. If every
Yeah.
time someone walked in the temple, I'd go up to them and say, "Welcome to the temple, Prabhu," or Pravi, then I really wouldn't be able to chant Hare Krishna too much. So I just go like this, and then
Thank you.
once a day in our temple, we all go Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasundibhyeva Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. I think every temple they do that. I offer my
Yes, we
respectful
do.
obeisances of the Vaishnavas, or oceans of mercy. Kripa Sindhu Bhayavacha, Patitanam, saviors of the most fallen, Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So, yeah, so that's actually sufficient. I mean, you can't just, but if a Vaishnav comes and they come from far away and you're doing deity worship, you're supposed to stop the deity worship to receive the Vaishnava. I mean, that's the proper thing. Look at Krishna. Sudama Brahman walked into his house or castle. And what did Krishna do? He had sat him down on his own bedstead, had Rukmini fan him, uh, bathed his feet, massaged his feet. I mean, this is etiquette. This is etiquette, So we have to be appreciative. But of course, if there's 200 people in the temple, you can't go around. But obviously, we should be as respectful to the Vaishnavis as we are to the Vaishnavas. But obviously, you're not going to go around to all the ladies and say, Mataji. They might get angry if you said Mataji.
In Alachua, we address as a Prabhu.
Pravi or Prabhu. Pravi is the feminine.
What language is that, Prabhu? I never heard.
Sanskrit.
Really?
Yeah, Prabhu is masculine, Pravi is feminine.
Maharaj, are you joking or serious?
I'm not, I'm serious. That's
Prabhu?
Sanskrit. Pravi, yeah, masculine and feminine. Now, Prabhu can refer to everybody, both masculine men and women, when referring to a large group. Like, like they say, any man can become Krishna conscious. That's in reference to men and women. So, obviously, that's the common use of the word of English. And so the same thing could be there in Sanskrit. But Pravi, yes, just ask a Sanskrit expert. I've already done it. Pravi is
Okay.
the feminine of Prabhu.
No, I believe you. I
Pravi.
never heard it.
Well, try it one time. See if they get angry at you. But nowadays, if you say Mataji, you'll get in trouble.
I know that, Maharaj.
I mean,
We live in a place.
what is this called? Cancel culture? It's called cancel culture. That if you don't act politically correct, you get canceled. So, on that happy note, I think we have to end. Thank you all for joining us. And I have a lot of fun in the evening classes. We're supposed to have a lot of fun in Krishna consciousness. And one thing you're seeing I'm doing, I've got, whoops. One thing you actually see that I'm doing is that I'm actually, instead of just seeing a talking head, I'm showing everything in my house and my body because it's much more effective for communication. So it's actually very nice because after a while you get tired with all these Zoom calls where you see a bunch of talking heads. So I like to see more people's houses and where they live, and then this is much more personal. Okay, see everybody tomorrow, same time, same station. All glories to His divine grace, Srila Prabhupada, Ki Jai.
Jai.